Studio 255 returns in the Laramie Plains Civic Center with the Talk Shop and our in-studio guest, Brandon Newman, City Council member. And what ward are you representing? Ward 2. I think that's mine. I always forget. My diligence is not detailed enough when it comes to all of that. But in Studio 255 right now for your questions, should you like to call in 460-3087, your opportunity to do so, and give us a jingle, give us a text. Radio works at mail.com, mail.com, your opportunity to weigh in or stop in. You're welcome at Studio 255 in the Laramie Plains Civic Center. The doors are open, and we'll have you as a guest right now. We ended last segment talking a little bit about public comment and an added feature to the agenda. What's the strength of that particular public comment? Consideration of changes in the agenda and setting the agenda. Public request to remove a consent agenda item and place it on the regular agenda to allow for public comments. However, interestingly enough, in parentheses, no public comment will be taken during this item. Items will be considered at the discretion of the council, available in person and web conferencing in paren. Now, if you want the input, why wouldn't you at least have a 30-second question that comes with this? And that might provide opportunity for all council members to actually understand with greater depth what's going behind the citizens' request to do so, pulling it out of consent agenda.
Yeah, so that's
my comment on that, Brandon.
Yeah, that was my first thought when I first wanted to put this in the agenda, and I do like the 30 seconds of why should we pull something. Is there something we're overlooking? Now, that is a double-edged sword, because if a citizen wants something pulled, maybe we should just pull it, and I think that's kind of what council was looking at. But then when Brett came on Zoom and asked to pull that, nobody did it. So it's kind of one of those double-edged swords. I'll tell you, and I've been called out for this start of the year, because I'm the one that ran on transparency. I talk about transparency. Yet I have stopped public comment twice, I think now, maybe 3 times. And then when this happened, I didn't pull the item either. But I promise you, I'm here for the public comment. And I reached out to Brett and let him know, like, if you could have told me why, I probably would have pulled it, because his email told me why. And he sent us all an email. I think he sent it to council at cityoflaramie.org. So it probably went to all of us, but I am for public comment. I don't think this allows that, like council intended.
Well, this stands as one of those points of inconsistency in the current council's 2025 operations. In the resume of work, it stands as an opportunity where, yeah, we really given lip service. I mean, this was one where I almost commented, though I try to be direct to things. I've been out of order through. I didn't recognize that a work session was exactly the same protocols as a regular session. It was a work session. I thought they were looser. I thought that was. But most concerning was the lack of Mayor Cumby's interest in gaining clarification. So to me, it's completely proper. Bang the gavel. You're out of order, Mr. Henderson. One more and you're out of here, or whatever the protocol, the rules denote. But if you're truly interested in public comment, educate. How is it possible to follow up on something where your question went completely avoided? It was bypassed, and that's the reason that I brought it up. The incident was LCCC President Schaefer didn't answer my question with respect to housing being provided for Albany County campus as opposed to Cheyenne County, Laramie County campus, Albany County and Laramie County, and didn't get answered. It acknowledged what I said, which I didn't look for affirmation. I looked for
An answer.
I looked for an answer, and in not getting one, I injected when he was finished. I didn't interrupt him, but I hadn't raised my hand. I thought it was a work session, and we were interested in work getting done. That conversation could have been done. He didn't stick around after council meetings. After his comments were done, he was out of there. He didn't tap me on the shoulder exiting and indicate he cared with respect to what that question was that I didn't get. Nor did Mayor Cumby say, Mr. Henderson, obviously you have something. In the future, please raise your hand, educate the public on Zoom and every other possible way, and then about the rule of order, and then get to it. What's your question? Now, obviously you have a question, or you wouldn't have interrupted. You could have slapped me again. Another shot in the wrist. Bring the ruler. I'm here for you, sister. I'm here for you. I spoke to Mayor Cumby after that meeting, and she acknowledged that was possible and that she could have done that. She was new. And how much treatment of the public gets done because there's a transition or there's new or there's... Hey, Mayor Cumby, I'm going to give you props because you have doubled the time delay between a call for public comments when it gets acknowledged. It doesn't always get acknowledged. In fact, you, Councilman Newman, interrupted me during a minute into my comment, my public comment on something that had been removed from the agenda by being tabled, and this council as a whole had not taken public comment on tabling this matter. So when I went to the podium, I thought y'all removed it, and it was open and available for my 3 minutes, and I got into it, not a full 3 minutes. You yourself called the matter it was in first reading. It's still in first reading. It'll be this week that it'll continue in that.
Which one is this?
This is the billboards.
Right? No, it's
postponed
continued
longer?
Until May.
Okay,
Because we're going to have a work session in
on it.
April.
There's a work session on it.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, in any event,
Right.
there's some inconsistencies of meeting protocols that they could strongly be improved.
I agree, and that's what I tried to do. I think if I had one complaint about council since I've started, it's the rules and procedures, because we have our rules and procedures, and then if we don't mention anything in those rules and procedures, then we go down to Robert's rules.
I had 7 items. Why'd you interrupt me?
Because realistically, we should have been following the rules, and nobody else seems to want to call that point of order, which is why I am getting beat up right now, because I'm the one that keeps doing it, right? But if we're going to have...
Nancy does it.
If we have rules...
Nancy does it.
Oh, yeah.
She does it periodically.
There are council members who say something, I guess. I haven't heard them, but that's just my opinion. But if we're going to have rules, let's follow them. Which is why the work session, one of our first work sessions was, what rules and procedures do we need to change? Well, I got called point of order many times because I was, when an item comes to the floor, staff gets to present it, right? And then council gets to ask questions, and then it goes to the public, and then it comes back to council for comments. That wasn't a written rule. So I just had comments, so I wanted to say them in the beginning, like, hey, here's my comment, think about this as the public is talking, or staff is going to represent something, and then you guys can have a discussion. But here's my comment, and I got called point of order twice, and I was just like, there is no point of order, so you can't call that on me. But I shut up, put my hands down. I made a comment under my breath that I know other people heard, but I was like, let's go into this work session, let's change these rules, but let's follow them. If we're going to represent the city and we're going to represent ourselves, we have to follow them. Right. So it wasn't fair, in my opinion, and I know I talked to you afterwards, it wasn't fair, in my opinion, that it was voted on, and now there's public comment on it. The public comment needed to go to the next one.
It should have been on the tabling.
And it should have been, and I think I reached out to, because somebody else reached out, maybe it was Brett, I don't remember, but that was 100% on council that we missed that public comment. And I took the blame for it as well, because I missed it too.
Do you see how the public can see these type of omissions and errors as a lack of interest? I mean, this item 5, where Brett Glass asked, seems to indicate we made up our mind, and during the 2024 council group's action, we used to get leadership in the meeting, which would call for public comment. Seeing none, we're moving on. I mean, it was that fast. Now, in County Commissioner Terry Jones leads the meeting, and
I
it's
like how she does
first
it.
Call, second call, third call,
Yeah,
and a longer pause on the third call as a matter of style.
Yeah, I like how she does it.
And I dig it. I really dig it. Not only, I mean, does the podium? Look, you know how many shows I do where I only have me, myself, and I. It's sad, right? This is an opportunity for the community. Come on,
right?
Come to the table. Don't beat me up on social media and be void in Studio 255. The door's open. Red carpet's there. I'll pour you coffee. I'll give you a cold.
He will
drink.
do that.
I'll bring you a cold drink. Now, so it just seems like errors and omissions like this stack up.
They do.
And the overall message is, zip it. We don't want to hear from you. We're only doing so because as a matter of law, we have to.
I think council wants to listen. I truly do.
And if that is happening at city council, what's happening in county commission, or what's happening in committees that lead up to? Is that going? Are they getting? You would think the public would get more comment opportunity there, but the education and the awareness of what's on the agenda for a planning commission meeting, it's not as readily known.
I don't even know if people come to those. All my committees,
I don't have a routinized marker in my calendar, but I probably should, and I need to be more diligent about it. And y'all split up 50 committee assignments where y'all volunteer for it. You don't get paid for that time. I personally find it that although the schedule might not be $150 an hour, I do believe that there should be something that is cognizant of the time. It should at least be a marker. I don't care if it's $10. I believe that it should recognize you attended.
And we have too many.
I think that documentation, look, if it's important, put $1 to it. If it is, I mean, they're talking pennies in terms of the value of public interaction.
Compared to some of the other budgets?
And compared to, I mean, if you just look at the efficiencies and success of the ranch manager, the ranch hand that's looking after water utilization, crop, turning dollar on purchased ranch properties for the city of Laramie. He's 10xing for our community, according to the presentations.
He gets up, gives
data.
facts, and no BS.
And I'm sorry, but he has me engaged the entire time. I can honestly say that there are 35 and 50-minute presentations that I've sat through just this year alone by city staff that have they compete with snails crawling, and they almost indicate to me, we want you to go on a doze so that this gets passed the way we want it, the way we recommend it, and the city council will stamp it accordingly. Now, if you don't want that perception, guys, don't conduct the meetings this way. Consider that if you get a packet from city staff, I don't expect you need a 50-minute presentation on this. You should have been doing that kind of depth in a prior committee. Maybe a work session is where that's going, and that's why it is. I mean, work session strategy is there's usually 2 or 3 primary items, and it's a work session. It's not a city council meeting.
Right.
But these meetings, they get to where I don't know. I personally think a 20-minute is limit. You ought to have a 15-minute warning. Maybe maybe it correlates to how many millions we're spending, or anything up to here is 10 or 15 minutes. This is 20 or whatever. It seems that the message is confused. It's conflicted.
Yeah, I've made a couple comments. I've talked to the city manager about it as well. I talked to the mayor, and I'm like, man, these meetings are all going till 9. Like, past councils, we were out at 8. Sometimes I think 7:30 was like our fastest kind of thing. But these are all going to 9, and I think part of it is like staff's presentations are getting a little longer, and then
well, the number of thank yous and shoulder patting each other on the back is growing as this term goes on as well, and they all add up.
They do.
And
they do.
You're getting 150 an hour. You're getting 150 a session each. There are those of us who don't make a penny, and we're dutifully doing our best to cover so that media don't get the claim that it's not being covered. I was at a meeting Monday night, March 17th, and Representative Chestic made a comment in that session. They said media didn't cover this. I wanted to stand up and say, Representative Chestic, did you forget my email and your return call denying me the opportunity to speak on any matter of interest? You didn't even ask me what I was interested in or what I wanted to discuss. How involved or caring can you be if that's the conduct that you do? Now, in all of 2022 Candidate Awareness Tour and all of the Candidate Awareness Tour 2024 on the Talk Shop, each and every public candidate for office invited. Many verbally, all invited otherwise. Yeah. Now, that call in that invitation, always on air, always open. And by the way, the Candidate Awareness Tour for 2026 is open. Joseph Kibler for governor of Wyoming, first to attend that opportunity and be introduced. You can catch that for a limited time only on Facebook. We're working to capture those videos and catalog them and set up a server to where there'll no longer be that risk of losing interviews.
Yeah.
Because it's a social media platform's interest this way or that way. We don't want to be losing great content for people to make their voting decisions by that. So these are adaptations that we're doing. Facebook had allowed something to never be deleted, but that's until March 2025, and then by the end of March 2025. And this is important for all you with your family videos or friends, or it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes these moments that sometimes you never get them back. You may have lost a loved one. Don't lose your videos.
Right.
Go back in, find out what's going on, research it. Ask Google, how do I back up all my Facebook videos before they're deleted? Because this is a going fact. It's happening, and it is what it is. But the messages are conflicted right now, and I appreciate anything you can do to square it up for the people and walk the talk. I had 7 points that I felt were important on that particular billboard matter, and And I listened to council that weren't paying attention to Philip Gabathuller's presentation where he said this fact or that fact. He put it out. It's right in my notes. Maybe if you need to take notes, because to go and revisit something, to clarify is one thing, but to go back and absolutely only duplicate the effort, it's like you're doing it for effect. And I didn't know that was really what's. And meanwhile, not only myself, you're in there, and by the way, I'm waiting for a 3-minute public comment while Philip Gabathuller does a 35-minute plus presentation and reiterates not less than 3 times the city staff's recommendation. Once you made the recommendation, I think you're done. And it's time for the guest speaker to speak, and that would have been Megan Getz that evening. And she's efficient, she's respectful of my time. Why isn't city staff equally so in that measure? And I give Gabathuller grief on this point, but I also thank him because upon request, that meeting he met me Friday that same week, and we zoomed my concerns in greater depth on the some of the points of light that the University of Wyoming has probably the brightest, most brilliant display that's street side, and definitely hits all of the points of concern that city staff made for business and commercial private interests, but the university gets a pass as they're on sovereign ground, and there's a different ordinance with respect to the University of Wyoming. Well, that shouldn't be the citizens' detriment.
Right.
And if it is the citizens' detriment, I'd like to know what is being done in meetings or communication with this body to resolve these grave concerns that are a matter of record for the public commerce area, but not for the other. Now, I'm talking about 2317, the corner of 23rd and Grand, where you have the Marion H. Rochelle Gateway Center with a brilliant, to me it's fantastic, it's a fantastic lighted display. Though it's vertical, it's quite similar to that vibrance that we could expect in a digital billboard brought to council for consideration and amending and allowing their 5 existing billboards from 2009.
I think the whole ordinance needs to be looked at from 2009, but
and the current council, well, there were 5 that 4 of 5 that ran as a slate essentially. Promoting business was their thing, and one of my 7 points was walk your talk, folks. How can you decline a technical upgrade to a billboard situation that you grandfathered as is, right? We grandfathered it, which denotes we don't want you anymore. And that was the council's purview back in 2009, perhaps. Has it changed? Maybe it has. And if it has, which I think it might have, then don't waste time of yourselves and public belaboring it. Get after it and decide maybe densities, maybe competition should be integrated, maybe some other consideration. The other point that I had was council getting into price fixing for matters of how much advertising would cost. That's great concern for me. You do not regulate the price of cheeseburgers in China any more than you should advertising rates in Laramie. Mm-hmm. This is not taxi cab driving, and I don't even necessarily believe you should do that. I believe in open commerce. I believe that
Me too.
if you wanna get in a cab and you want to pay $5 a mile or whatever it is, that's your choice. If I want to negotiate it down, also my choice. But it comes down to revenue, doesn't it? It comes down to we want to know that for every mile driven, you're going to have it metered and we're going to get a cut.
Right.
And guess what? You do the same with advertising dollars in this realm as well. I mean, man, how many times do we get a bite at the apple, right?
And then
Parking fees were changed. Let's not forget billboards, but parking matter. We went from $10 a ticket when enforced to $40, reducible to
20.
if paid.
I think it's 7 days.
Timely.
Yeah, timely. I think it's 7.
And regardless of that, there's a neat opportunity at every turn to make money. What's the money going to? Does it pay for those extra city council meetings that you get with the public?
Who knows?
Not currently.
Yeah, not currently.
Not currently. But back to billboards. In that regard, you interjected that the topic, my comments should have been delayed and went to that.
Right.
And I respect you for that. I give you grief because you're
A lot
here.
of people do.
It's you and me, and
Yep.
and you. Frankly, you can take it. And I appreciate that you value that part of the role that you chose to be elected Ward 2 City Council.
I knew it wouldn't be easy, and
So-
I knew if we have rules that we need to follow, or I disagree with something and vote a different way than probably some people would, that I'd get backlash for it, right? And I knew all that going into running for council, and then my first term, or my first 2 years of my first term, I got some backlash too, because I did some things that people didn't like and voted ways that people probably didn't like. But that's a good thing about this setting. It's a good thing about everybody has my email. I get text messages, I get phone calls. Let's have dialogue, right? You don't like something that I did, let's talk about it and find out why. Right. And maybe you saw it a different way than I did, or whatever that case is. So, and back to Brett's thing. Pulling something off, I think we still, and I told him in the email, we need to change that. You need some sort of public, or I'm just going to start pulling everything that people ask, which is probably what should happen. But I don't want to be the only council member doing that, right? So I think we still need some change. I think we went in the right direction. We just need to make a little bit of a right turn.
Tweak it from there.
Right, from where it is now.
Now I don't sense from any other council member that they're adamantly opposed to that. I'm sure that decisions like this make sense when they happen, but then in application, it's probably a different.
Right now, we need to tweak it.
And day one, you saw an opportunity to change it, perhaps. So, what other topics are exciting for the city right now? There were 3rd Street activity as I was coming into Studio 255
open my
this
email
morning.
while you're talking.
And grab it. Is that on the agenda? Grab it.
So the 3rd Street, I think we've got, at least I personally have, and some of it's been through Facebook, on the 3rd Street, what we're doing there. I'll comment on the
curb bulbs and installing.
So I think it'll look a lot better. It'll match some of the other stuff.
Are we doing drainage?
I hope so.
Infrastructure while
because we
those are
already
being
did
done?
that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we did. We might be upgrading some of the drainage, but I know, like last year when it was all tore up, we were putting all the new water lines and stuff
Because there's
underneath
nothing
it.
quite as amazing to me as going down 3rd Street after it's newly surfaced and then
the pothole.
and it's got the rolling effect because we had to dig up a section afterwards.
And that's something that I've been fighting in West Laramie too. Everybody's like, pave West Laramie. We'll get to it, but we got to do the stuff underneath it, because I'm like you. I don't want to pave something breaks underneath it, now I have to go
That's black gold.
right?
Texas
dig up what we just did and waste more city staff and city money, and now we have to fix it. So let's fix everything under it, which is what I think they did. I did see the city put out some stuff trying to help some of the businesses affected by like closing the sidewalk in 3rd Street.
Yeah, there was some promotion for the
we're
businesses open. And
I think we're doing a
Shop
better
Laramie
job. I think we're doing a better job this time than last year, helping those.
What relief exists for businesses that substantially are impacted by that. Maybe they show 3 years of revenue prior to this year, and this year this is here. Does the state subsidize them in any percentage?
I have no idea that. I would like to see if we could come up with a grant
Or yeah, that'd be
going
a grant,
forward to where maybe it's something to that effect. You know, here's 3 years, and then like maybe not even 3 years, like the months. You know, 3 years of those months that we're closing Third Street or whatever down.
Now, Councilman Newman, you start suggesting ideas for spending city money.
That's okay.
Is that your role?
It kind of,
should be.
right. So, and
I like it. I mean, I like the consideration.
on, you know, Harriet was here. And,
Harriet Hageman.
yeah,
Congresswoman
yeah,
Hageman.
That was a fun
March
conversation.
19th at the Albany Town Hall, the Albany County Town Hall, and that was quite an affair.
It was one of the. I think it might have been our Republican state or chair. No, not chair. State committee man got up and asked the question, "How can we bring Doge to Laramie?" And somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Isn't that your job?" And it kind of is, right? The only difference is I'm elected, and those guys aren't in Washington.
Elon Musk is not.
But that kind of is.
But he is appointed by that individual who was elected by
Right.
the American people.
Right. Whether you like that or not, you know, that's
separate issue.
it's there. But
He asked about how to do that in the state.
we do it, right? I'm on the finance committee. I go line by line, everything we spend once a month with 2 other counselors. And then when we go to these meetings and vote on it, that's all line items too, right? So realistically, yeah, I think I can talk about how to spend some money because we do it.
Maybe that citizen and others, and I do know who made that, interjected that question, but I do respectfully say show up to the meetings.
Right.
And if you as council follow some of these protocols and take public comment at every opportunity, then you might get those points of light
Right.
that you're asking for, or and maybe not. I mean, look at parking. 105 people plus show up to chambers in May 2024, lend comment and concern about abating a lease and terminating a lease that we have to rely on till 2042, the year 2042, which by my calculation is a long time away, but not that far away. But instead of looking at making a purchase of that property and speaking something immediately by the city and engaging in that and letting the public know, hey, we're talking, if these people want to sell it and they want to do something with it, then perhaps we respond in kind, purchase it from them, and resolve a community concern.
Did you hear that property got sold?
And in December, apparently that closed, and is now owned by the Stencil Group,
Correct.
who issued their concern that, oh, wait a minute, I didn't think this was going to be anything but postponed. I thought this was a done deal. What goes on with someone thinking that it's a done deal? It's that hopeful perspective, or was there action by some that they consulted with that gave them that feeling? That, because I found his comment genuine, though in the talk shop attempt to interview that individual, I never got a response from Stencil Group on three calls to Stencil Group in South Dakota. Their choice, and maybe an offer to purchase was on the table the entirety. Maybe that existed. Owners at the time, John Guerin and Bolin, Mr. Bolin. Now, whether it was or wasn't, I don't know. It's none of my business. But it is my concern that council was not fast in that opportunity, in exploring that opportunity, at least publicly. Maybe behind closed doors y'all had, but I don't get that. I don't understand.
know.
It's like we want to kick issues down the can
Kick
down the road.
Yep. I don't know when staff reached out to those owners of the 2 lots. I have no idea when that happened. And then we found out. I think I found out a month ago, maybe something like that it did get sold, and I was like, well, that kind of sucks.
And I want to welcome people. If you buy property or you're interested, I'm excited that somebody wants to buy from anywhere else property in our community, and they want to do neat things with it. But in this case, I hope we're not going down just another version which challenges all the other problems that we haven't solved yet.
Right.
Parking being one of them for retail in historic downtown Laramie.
Yeah.
And parking doesn't have to be a loss. It can be a revenue generator in some respects. So I would think that city staff might duly be entertained by that. And I don't know what the water table is. I don't know how low we could go in order to have that lower level parking as well as above grade, ground grade parking. But we're talking about aesthetics that they're not likely to change for 50 plus years. I mean, Downey Hall was built in 1965 on Grand in Laramie. 2025, as soon as the new complex, North and South Hall, as I understand they're looking to name those.
Is that what they're naming? I don't know.
Are going to be leading to the closure of Downey Hall, serving as designed 384 individuals, students, at the University of Wyoming year after year, each one of those years. And based on utilization, maybe that's not happened. But I made question to the council and said, hey, I heard this. I'd like to know, are conversations being held? And I got a prompt response from Mayor Cumby that thanked me for my comment and referred me to the university as they were sovereign and essentially get after it, Eric. Which I didn't respond to in kind, but my view is, as city representatives, if you take the role, you're elected to do that. And if your suggestion is the conversation, go here, go there, again, my public comment not valued enough by current council members to take it forward. Let's study it. Let's study the possibility. Let's have one meeting. You know, I had lunch with X, Y, and Z, these stakeholders, and we talked about that. Based on city comment, we took that comment and we did this. What could I say as a citizen except to have been invited to the meeting?
Right.
And there's nothing that would prohibit me being invited to the meeting. No. I have over 20 years of residence life experience. I had my first years of student on-campus living in residence hall, which was June Ed at Downey. And in that time, I have great respect. I have great insight into how exactly those get utilized. Yeah. And how, guess what? You're visiting with the one individual who has housing director experience at WyoTech in their program. Back in 2001, I also did that. And we were talking off air about where were you when 9/11 happened. Well, I came in and Weena Bohanik was office manager at that time in a housing department, and we couldn't believe it. Wow. Here, and the second tower just got hit. I mean, it's like, wow, big times. Where were you when? But public comment is really powerful, Brandon.
I agree.
And I hope that the protocols can be done where that's concerned. But back to the interest on 3rd Street, Micah Richardson spoke about that could go in deep past Jubilee. She didn't say deep past. She said that could go through Jubilee Days.
So they're going to open it for Jubilee Days is what was told to us. Uh-huh. So we'll have whether it's some crappy pavement or whatever, it won't be done.
Temporary,
Right.
not packed.
And
this
then
tightly.
we do have a clause in there that if they finish it, I don't know the finish date off the top of my head, but if they do finish it faster, there is a money incentive, kind of like we did with the bridge north of town. But so it should be open. Should be, hopefully. Hopefully it doesn't get prolonged and we can get this project done. And part of the conversation that started this was Brett Glass's pulling 9G. The reason why city staff couldn't do that is there's so many contractors and so many vendors that they would have to deal with that they couldn't do the other jobs around town. So making this agreement with I think it's Fort Collins Group that's going to come up and run that project for us, I think is a great idea. That way our city staff can look at what they need to be doing. And the money was already basically allocated. We had to move a little bit more, I believe. But overall, I think what it's going to do is it's going to make 3rd Street and Grand, that intersection, more walkable, more presentable, and kind of 3rd Street business fronts there.
And you are talking about BHA Design
that
Incorporated out of
yeah.
Fort Collins, Colorado, for the downtown corridor. Yeah.
So that's why our city staff. But if Brett came up and could have said, "Hey, this is why I want it pulled," I think I would have pulled it. But either way,
I anticipate a pretty responsive group making some type of consideration with respect to this council and how they go forward on item 5. And not to beat the point, I don't want to do that. But I have seen some repeated. I have seen some sequential omissions and errors that they collect. And,
it does.
And as they collect, you get smacked on the hand. That's one thing, but it makes you pay attention to details like, if you're going to require the public to appear on camera, then maybe your city staff should appear on camera also with the same treatment.
So and that is ruled in our bylaws.
That inconsistency happened last meeting with Staff Wood in presentation of finance matters, and I respect. Sounded like her. I've heard her voice
Director
before.
Wade, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And I apologize, but I've heard her. But if you have a protocol on one hand, then administrate it.
So that is in
likewise.
our bylaws that staff or council can keep their camera off, and I'm trying to remember the terms. If there's a safety matter, if you're sick. There's like 2 others, I think. And I think that was just a miscommunication. I didn't know why I didn't know she
there was
sick.
Nothing stated in public about why it would be off
Which
camera.
I think that's a learning curve that Mayor Cumby and then the 4 new councilors are dealing with, and even some of us that have only been on the council for 2 years, like Vice Mayor Richardson and myself, like we're still kind of probably knowing some of the processes.
I want to go on record. The staff presentation of information from this staff member is exceptional.
I love Director Wade.
I never get a feeling that I get anything but the nuts and bolts and exactly what I need to know, and so I appreciate Wade's work. So
yeah, and I think just and this could be a learning curve that Mayor Cumby's having, kind of like, hey, if somebody's gonna call in sick or Zoom in, like maybe I can make that announcement. That way, that public comment never would have happened, to be honest.
I want to tell folks, so long as I've dedicated my time to be present covering these things, I do not go without being open to sharing your comments. If you email radioworks@mail.com, copy furnish council at cityoflaramie.org. If I have opportunity to interject my 3 minutes in support of your 3 minutes, and you're not giving me a proxy, I don't get 6 minutes to do so. No. But if you want it on the record, and I've done it for neighbors before, and I'll do it again every chance I'm approached in order for the public good. Now, I won't do it if I'm adamantly, I'll probably go silent maybe on something if I'm not in agreement. I don't recognize the value of it, but I'm going to probably talk to you. You're going to know that I have this type of concern, but I avail myself. If I'm going to be there 3 hours a week myself, I appreciate your trust in sharing that. And it's going to be on stream, their answer.
Yep.
City Council will respond, and I always appreciate the opportunity to know that I'm doing good for the community as well. And so in sharing those comments, sometimes I represent Facebook threads myself, or
right.
Sometimes I do those. And it's usually where I own them also. So they are mine, and they're not. And if I have the occasion to represent somebody else's, I will share specifically or confidentially, whatever it is. But that's, to me, that you do that for your neighbors, and that opportunity is there. Now, if you want us to talk more than 3 minutes about any topic, the talk shop's open to you, and you're invited to the microphone. This platform is a community platform, and it is wide open and available, and you will get more than 3 minutes. You're going to get more than 30 minutes if you want,
Yeah.
because this is the talk shop, and communication is absolutely vital to improving our community.
I agree.
So, topics beyond 3rd Street, which I like the considerations. You mentioned one other that you had received.
Let's see. I don't know, because the other one was billboards. We're starting to get some good talk about billboards, whether they should be considered or not. We talked about...
It seems the critical question is, does the city want billboards or not want billboards?
So 2009, it seemed like council didn't want billboards, right? They want to phase them out.
At that time, Mayor Guerin administrating leadership for the council.
Well, was not here, so that's good information to know. And then this council, we want to have the discussion. It sounds like they're going to be here for a long time. So I am not a fan of them having to get rid of one billboard so they can make one an electronic billboard, kind of like they had to do in Cheyenne. I'm not a fan of that. They have 5 here, so they can keep the 5.
Are there more strategic places that new billboards might exist,
work better
versus the old,
right,
and be better for our entire community?
Yeah,
that wasn't discussed at all, which was my 6th point.
I am game for bringing some competition in, help drive the prices down, those kinds of things. I'm not in favor of let's talk their money. I don't care what they sell that stuff for. I wouldn't want somebody to come into my business and say, hey, I know you're selling that iPhone for $700, but you got to sell it for $100. I would never
You can't sell that
right?
for that.
Right.
I don't care if it's new and never been used.
The question of censorship and who should be doing that, also not a city council member position I want to take, because that's their company, right? And those kinds of things. So I think good discussion will come. And somebody asked me, and I started, and I think maybe
light pollution,
right? And I remember the work session. I went back and watched it twice before that meeting, to be honest, and took a bunch of notes. And I didn't even get to talk.
Did you feel it was valuable?
The work session, the first one, yeah. And then even then. When Ms. Getz got up and said that the technology has changed since then and the white pollution is even less, let's have this discussion now, because now I'm all in, right? If it's even less than what it was. But, there's a lot that went into that conversation that I think was missed, and city staff presented it the way they did. In my opinion, I didn't like it. I felt like I was being preached to be honest. Beating that message in. And I went, the there's a couple of us on council. I went and made a formal complaint about it. Went and talked to city manager about it. Like, hey, like you beat this point in too much.
Well, like I said,
and,
three times minimum stated staff position on it.
which took that meeting as long as it did. And I think one of his comments that irritated me probably more than the others was, well, 2009 council wanted this. So, like, am I held to those standards? Do I have to stay with what they agreed with, or can we make our own? Right?
I think that to make the factual point in time presentation of fact, is this originated? You know, our operating standard follows 2009 council action. Done. I mean,
Right, I think it was pushed that because they wanted it. Well, there are some agendas, but there's a lot of agendas that we change past council's ideas, right? Because technology's different, the time's different. And I truly hope that, I think it's April 22nd when this work session happens, that the public shows up and has some input in this. For me, and this is my opinion only, when I go to council and there's nobody in the audience except for a couple people, like, that's discouraging. Like, I want to have this dialogue, and so I urge people
when
to
you
show
got
up.
elected, you didn't shut off the connectivity to your community, right?
I actually made it better. I have a website, and started it back up. To be honest,
What's that website?
It's just BrandonNewman.net.
Okay.
So it's just my name.net. I wanted .com, but a football player owns it and won't sell it to me. But I have a blog on there that I started, and they it's funny that you mentioned Facebook got rid of, like, they're getting rid of some videos right after a certain time. The first website host that I was using did that to my blog too, because I started blogging before I was even a council member.
Right.
As I was running, and I lost all those blogs, and I was so devastated.
Host your own
Yep.
show. Host your own affair. If you don't want to,
Yeah.
if you don't want to be penalized by the whims of business and.
So we found one that we could back up to where now I have access to all those blogs and my platforms on there, and what I stand for and how I vote and those kinds of things. But I was devastated when I lost all that, because some of these topics that we're talking about, like the transparency, communication, people showing up to council, like, I have blogs about those. I remember going to a council meeting before I was on council, and I was the only person there, and I'm like, this isn't typical, right? Like, people show up to these. If I'm finding out it's more typical that, like, there's, the media, you guys are there, 24/7 hosts it for us, and then city staff, and maybe one or two other people, and that's discouraging for me, to be honest.
I found the March 19th visit from Representative Hageman. I found it quite alarming, personally. In the conduct from 6:30 to 7:30 was most concerning in that day. It was quite concerning, because attending Albany County Commissioner meetings and attending City Council meetings regularly, I find a fair amount of order and mutual respect for the most part, by and large. I think Wednesday was raucous and frankly, there was threatening and menacing behavior. There were actionable offenses that occurred in that environment in the Griffin Theater that were absolutely detainable by law. There was City of Laramie Police Department presence. There was State Highway Patrol that were present also.
I think I saw a university.
And in any event,
there
was enough law enforcement there that a tone could have been set to bring order to something that could have went south fast. And I'm sure that this is what Chief Bryan might say with respect to not having arrested anyone out of, the front row. There was a hooded gentleman, and it wasn't a gentleman, folks. He was profane, and he was he may have been assaulted himself in someone touching him, but he absolutely intentionally was bumping and pushing and flailing profane comments, and he was threatening. No question about it. In a court of law, he was threatening. I would testify day in and day out, and my video would show likewise. Now, I wasn't the only one capturing the moment in that, but I chose not to. Chose not to reshare it, because for me to go through and edit the audio and blur the profanity that takes it out of safe harbor would have been. I've still been doing it. And I'm only the resource that I am, so I'm doing things by choice order in my case. But just suffice it to say, we have a lot that we can learn from that particular session of a town hall in Albany County, and I didn't think we represented ourselves very well.
I think Laramie did.
We showed up. I love
Right.
that we showed up,
I
but I think some visitors showed up as well.
I talked to,
and they had right to show up.
Right.
It was a public deal.
so I was in line. I got here, I think, about an hour.
About 5:15, I saw.
Yeah, something like that. So I'm waiting in line. I'm talking to the people around me. I talked to a student from Cheyenne who had some good concerns.
And you were easily 300th in
Oh,
line.
easily, yeah. I didn't think I was going to make it. I'm glad they changed it to the Griffin.
the venue changed.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So I had my City of Laramie Council badge on, and that's the hat I was wearing that day. I wanted to know some stuff for City Council. So I had really good discussion in line,
Had
to be honest.
right?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I was standing there, and there was a I don't know how they identify, so I'm not going to identify them. But
Brandon, let me interrupt you,
Sure.
and we'll come back in another segment
Sure.
with more of detail about March 19th and what you learned
Sure.
in line, waiting to see Representative Hageman.
Sounds
This
like a
is
deal.
the Talk Shop and
need coffee
Perkins
anyways.
Restaurant and Bakery, your opportunity for all those yummy goody muffins. We appreciate you listening to the Talk Shop. And Chano's Village, 513 Boswell in Laramie, your opportunity to cater to your staff or the community. Chano's Village.